Aloha, welcome to the November 30th, 2022 meeting of the Environmental Management Commission. My name is Georgina Adams, and we've got, as usual, a scattering of people at our location, this time in Hilo, and the rest on Zoom. So welcome, everybody. I will hereby call the meeting to order at whatever time it is. Keeps disappearing from my computer. 9:02. The first order of business is maybe introduce everybody who's on the phone or on the call in Hilo. If you could announce yourself and your district or your representation. Appreciate it. I'm going to start, John.
The McIntosh, I think it's District 6.
Delaware District 3.
And I believe in the back is Sherilyn Tavares, and we'll get to her shortly. I'm Georgina Adams, the chair. And at least on my screen next to me is Kira Wong, our corporate counsel for the day. Elise Robinson, who is from District 2. Dee Fulton from District 7 is down below. Next to her is Rick Gaffney from District 8. Ramsey Mansour, our director of DEM, and Kelly, and I've just blanked on your last name.
Hartman.
Sorry. Magnificent planner that Ramsey was able to bring on for his many projects. Going to our next commissioner is Melissa Cardwell down in the bottom in the middle. And we also have Mike Rivera. I see you're able to make it now from the solid waste head, and Piers Dorbeck's on, and I'm sure we have a few others on the line. So welcome to the meeting. First agenda item, or the second, I guess, is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting in October 26th. If anyone would like to make a motion to adopt.
I move that those minutes be adopted.
A second? Second from John Olson, I believe. Any comments, corrections? Seeing none. Everybody who is in approval of those minutes, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed to adopting the minutes? Hearing none, we approve those minutes. And thank you, Peter, for going through them. They can be quite arduous. Statement from the chair. I'd like to introduce and welcome a new commissioner, Del Otsuka from District 3. Del, you want to give us a little bit of background and share your enthusiasm for being on the commission?
Okay, thank you. And good morning, Chairwoman Adams and esteemed commissioners. My name is Del Otsuka, and I will be representing District 2. And thank you for the privilege to serve along with you. I'd like to thank Peter and Pomaikai, who's not here, for their warm welcome as I contemplated being on this commissionership. And Peter was my first point of contact, and since then he's always been supportive and promptly responded to my questions and my requests. So thank you. And he also provided me over 2 years of information that overwhelmed me, but very interesting. And I want to thank also Councilwoman Sue Leroy for her vote of support. But a little bit about me. I retired from the Postal Service after 30 years, and I retired for 8. While working for the Postal Service, I was afforded many opportunities. It allowed me to work in 30 different post offices in all 9 districts. And I worked as a clerk, a supervisor, an auditor, and interim postmaster. I traveled as far as Atlanta for hazmat training. I was a customer service supervisor at the Hilo Post Office for 11 years. And I ended my career at Hawai'i after 13 years. And I felt that it was time to retire, although I love my job because I wanted to spend more time with my grandchildren. I currently volunteer as a member of the supervisory committee for the Winnemere Credit Union. I've previously served as a director for both boards of the Winnemere Credit Union and the Big Island Educational Credit Union. And so it is my honor to serve on this commission, and I will do the best that I can to fulfill the obligation. Thank you.
Well, I thank you, and I've been impressed at how you dove in at our last meeting in talking with you on this sidebar and welcome you to the group, and apologize. It's a bit of a fire hose of acronyms and issues, but you'll catch them. The other announcement to make is that Kara Wong, our Corporation Counsel, is moving on, and we have a new Corporation Counsel, Sherilyn Tavares. Am I saying your name right?
Yes, you could call me Sherry.
Sherry, okay, great. Little bit about where you come from.
Sure. So I was born and raised here in Hilo, and after graduating from law school, I was given the opportunity to return home. I clerked for Judge Glenn Hara, and then thereafter I served as a deputy public defender for the past almost 11 years. And so this is a huge change in my career for me, but I studied a lot of environmental law when I was in law school, and so I'm looking forward to this opportunity to, be here and represent the board and learn as I go. So be patient with me because I don't know everything, and there is a lot of acronyms, and every day it's like new alphabets that are being thrown at me, but I'm eager to learn, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Well, again, welcome, and I want to thank Kira for the advice and participation that she's had, and I'm sure she's given you warning that you need to corral me every once in a while because I skip steps and tend to be far too informal about these meetings, but just go ahead and go, hey, Georgine, you need to do this. So appreciate it, and thank you very much, Kira, for your assistance. I have one sad note to also announce, and that is Elise Robinson has decided to leave the commission effective next month. So this is her last meeting, and I would definitely want to thank her for her contributions to the commission and wish her well with her life, which she needs to get back to. So thank you, Elise, and hope you keep somewhat track of what EMC may be doing or not doing. Feel free as member of the public to provide your counsel. I've really appreciated your thoughts and your contributions to the group. And again, another opening for us to consider if we know anybody who we think would be good in her case from District 2. The other thing, I don't know if it's correct from a timing standpoint for me to tell, but I have to announce that item Roman numeral 6.1, Ashley Kirkowitz is not able to make the meeting, so we will be postponing her presentation until next year. And also, we will be postponing item Roman numeral 8 on what we would cover in an executive session, legal opinion that I had asked for on point of sale advanced deposit fund authority by the county. And hopefully we will get to that early next year. So moving along to any public statements or testimony. As I recall, Peter, we didn't have any written testimony. Is that correct?
Correct, so we do have one.
And would you like to speak now or to wait until the item is broached on the agenda? Who's the first one?
This is Kristen Kuwatz coming up. Would you like to speak now or later?
Yeah, that's fine.
That was good. Okay.
And who's the second one?
I'm Hannah Hartman, and if I'm going to speak, I would like it to be later, a little later on the agenda, if that's okay.
Okay. Which item?
That's why I would like it to be later on the agenda. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
No, I think, excuse me, Madam Chair, if I may, I think the chair is asking which item you're going to testify on. Has to be related to an agenda item. Do you have the item number, ma'am?
No, I don't.
So it's just a general comment.
I'm here just trying to be involved and see where the committee's at right now, so we can just do Christine's testimony. Well,
Okay. We don't really deal with general comments formally, so I'm not sure where you want to suggest putting that, Kara.
Okay, I'll just listen then for today. Thank you.
Okay. Christine, if you want to go ahead and make comment on which item.
Two items. One is the discussion of applying for the EPA grant. And the other item is, although Ashley Kirkowitz is not here, I would like to take the opportunity to comment on what she was going to present. Because it's timely. Okay, so does that mean I have 3 minutes for each?
Yes, you have 3 minutes for each, and go and talking about the first item, which is agenda 5, Roman numeral 5.2 on applying for the EPA grant for recycling infrastructure. Go.
So as you know, we're very much involved in networking with the community, talking to stakeholders, reaching out to people nationwide. I myself am a board member of the National Recycling Coalition. There's a lot of buzz to talk about these grants. And it seems to me that the very best opportunity for the county is to focus on composting infrastructure, a small scale distributed system, as we've been advocating for a very long time. Spending for infrastructure like that is very much in alignment with what the EPA is looking to do. And as you look at the grant and you look at the guidelines, you see that they have components where they are looking to advance environmental justice and social justice issues. And the composting issue definitely has that, because at one point, the idea the county was going with was to do a single large-scale composting facility in Keaukaha, which is a fence-line community. It's a community that suffers a lot of impacts from environmental injustice. And so the idea that it got moved from there is just creates this history of this being that kind of an issue. So now it's gone on to the idea after that now, but then another issue came up in that in terms of the farmers, the system wasn't really designed to suit their needs. So there's this background of environmental injustice, which would make this a priority for the EPA. The other thing is that it does have a lot of impact on climate. And so that's another express priority at this time. What the county could do if they want it to be more expansive is they could propose to do, to work on infrastructure related to climate and say that the program has two components. Our understanding is that this is a rolling opportunity. So there's going to be a 4-year period during which there's a certain amount of funding available the first year, the second year. If the county came in and said, well, we're going to address climate, and our first bet is to go with the composting because it's very much needed, the high methane emissions that are generated. We're trying to become more food self-sufficient. And the second year, they could shift to C&D collection because there's a high climate impact on that as well. So that's the recommendation that we would put forward, and our organization is very interested in working with the county and the consultants who are hired to help perfect that. We have a lot of input and feedback from the community, especially our collaboration with the EPA grant that the County of Hawaii Research and Development just completed.
Thank you very much. Is that it on that topic?
I think I ran out of time, right, Peter?
Yeah, 5 seconds.
Oh,
5 seconds. Thank you. You wanted to talk about item 6.1, where Councilman Kirkowitz was going to talk about the NEA grant that she helped with.
So people might be surprised to hear this, but Recycle Hawaii, we are very much opposed to this. We are doing everything we can to get EHCC to send the money back. And we did testify when this came up before the county council. Not sure how it happened, but there was this sort of fast track thing where you only had one opportunity to testify. And here's the reason is, again, you know, our organization and myself personally, we are involved in an international movement that is doing everything we can to prevent plastic pollution. We're especially concerned about nanoplastics. I don't know if people are aware of this, but you find nanoplastic pollution in the deepest part of the ocean, in these tiny little creatures that live as far away from humans as you can possibly get. You find it on the slopes of Mount Everest. You find nanoplastic pollution in the air column above the Swiss Alps in nearly the same concentration as you find it in Detroit. We have plastic in our lungs, in our blood. We even now find plastic in amniotic fluid. And that is these nanoplastic particles, and how they get there is by plastic sitting out in the environment. So now there's this idea that we're going to take waste plastic, we're going to make functional art, we're going to put it in the parks, and it's going to sit out there in the sun, in the salt air, degrading into microplastics. Kids are going to play around it. It's just like not the right idea. And what's tragic about this is I did have a chance to sit in on the meeting with EHCC last night and met the people, some of the artists that want to be involved in this. They're beautiful people. They're like really caring people, but they don't understand. And so it's going to be problematic, but we want to do everything we can to keep plastic out of the environment. It is the wrong message to send kids like, oh, we've got so much plastic. Well, let's make art out of it. Yeah, no. We have to stop using plastic for every non-essential use. Making art is not an essential use. The message that we want to send to everyone, including children, is plastic is a form of pollution. We need to grab a hold of it. If you have a piece of plastic in your hand that's a jug, good. Put it someplace where it's not going to sit in the environment. Don't ground it up. Form it with these kind of like low-tech processes that make it more readily degradable, and put it out into the environment. No, please, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that this doesn't move forward. So there are other components of the program. I'm not really sure if we can have some of those move forward. I did speak to the woman yesterday who is managing this project. We have a plan to meet with Ashley in January, but full stop. No plastic in the environment, no plastic art, please.
Okay, thank you for your comments, and obviously you're welcome to come back and at our January meeting, and if assuming that's when we could line up as Kirkowitz and testify again. So thank you, Christine. And then I guess we'll move on to our next agenda item. Unfinished business. 5, Roman numeral 5, number 1, just because I told Ramsey I would keep bugging him on this, and that is, what's the status of the retreatment rule?
Yeah, good morning, Georgia. Actually, I had invited Chris and Dora, our wastewater division. Chris has been the lead in working with EPA on getting the AOC milestones delivered on time. So Chris, hopefully he's logged in. Chris?
Actually, Chris is having troubles with his computer right now, so he's sitting in my office.
Okay, let him give us some briefing on the pre-treatment and where we at on the AOC.
Well, I was going to go ahead and do that, and if there are any more in-depth questions, then Chris would be able to answer it. So.
Yeah, just cover the code, because I know in last time we talked, our corporation council suggested that we cannot share any of these documents that were asked for. So have you guys, Dora, give us a little bit.
I haven't spoken to Corp Counsel about that, but I can start with just giving a little bit of background and where we're at on it. So, yeah, good morning, Commission Chair and Commission members. So basically the AOC was issued to County of Hawaii on November 30th, 2021, and the expectations are to submit a draft pre-treatment program by November 30th, 2023. So we have 2 years to fulfill all the required tasks before the deadline. So the AOC itemizes the required tasks and expected timeframes for completing the task, and those include identifying non-domestic waste via survey, developing local limits, developing an enforcement plan, and a budget and organizational structure to support the pre-treatment program. And we've completed about half of the required items, and the remaining is to be completed by November 30th, 2022, which is today, and we're going to meet that deadline. So we'll be notifying the DOH, of this milestone. So the next steps is to work on modifying the county sewer ordinance, which would be Chapter 21, and as well as the admin rules. So after DOH approves the pre-treatment program, which we're estimating probably early 2024, we will be submitting the revised sewer ordinance to County Council. So between now and that time, we'll be working on the changes to Chapter 21 and the admin rules. So that's basically where we're at.
Okay, well, I think the point that we as the EMC have been trying to make is that we care what's in there and believe that we should be able to have comment as well on the draft. And it's always sooner rather than later, so we've got time to digest it. And there were also uncertainties around whether there's some of the issues that we ran into when we had our appeal on administrative decision for Alakai Partners, whether there were some opportunities to improve some of the requirements and whether that pre-treatment rule was a vehicle. So I guess all I can do is keep encouraging that we would like to see the draft as soon as we can so that we can provide comment.
I can agree, and I think Dora needs to continue following up with our corporation council. Definitely, we need to get your input during the draft rather than wait till it's final. Makes a big difference. So we gotta continue pushing that, understand the reasons.
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with that. So I'll reach out to Corporation Counsel and have that discussion.
Okay.
Get back to you, Ramsey.
Okay.
Just a comment. If we don't
John?
get it right here, obviously we have a number of environmental organizations who are following this. And we end up getting stiffed on at the end, and that would probably come with some kind of very unhappiness from EPA, for which we could be substantially fined for not getting it right the first time. So the more openness that you get to this and the more eyes you have on it, the more likely that you're going to have a satisfactory outcome. And Dora, thank you for hanging in.
You're welcome.
Are there any other comments from commission?
I have a comment. I agree with
Adele?
John. And, okay, I'll just. Well, I know, the county has this mission sort of to be transparent. And I feel that because a commission only meets once a month, it's hardly, it seems like it's very hard to come together to agree on anything in the process. So as the director of the management and your staff, give us a briefing once a month now. Would it be too much to ask to get a copy of what you're reviewing with you? I mean, to provide us a copy so we can follow along as you're presenting the report. The web.
Sure. I mean, it's hard to hear, I think, the echo in that room, but let me see if, yeah, definitely. I mean, we are transparent, as you guys all know. This is a legal document that's being negotiated with EPA. So therefore, and the Department of Health, therefore, every step in the way, we have to consult with our counsel. So, because it is legal document. So it's, so definitely Dora will get with our new corporation counsel to Sherry and maybe get Malia as well, and trying to figure out from a legal point of view what documents we can share and what document we can't. But we definitely, from a transparency point of view, you guys known us from day one for the last 2 years. We transparent. So.
No, I appreciate it. And part of it, I think, is comment to Sherry. Welcome to the EMC, wants to see everything. So please encourage at least portions or those things that obviously are in our purview, which is chapter 21 and DEM requirements, so that we can provide comment, because we care. And as John Olson said, a lot of people do, because it can have a significant impact on our constituents.
In addition to that, Georgine, I think that should not stop us on start providing comments on chapter 21. You guys could start making a list, so that way we don't lose track of what we need to amend or not. So I think I recommend that all the commissioner, even my staff, I've been getting on their case as well to jog down every possible change that we need to make, because there's a lot of changes I foresee making pertaining to even sewer areas where we need to allow connections for developers and what have you. So sewer laterals where they need to be located, sewer manhole, drop manholes. So I had the opportunity to sit down with Dora yesterday and give her a list of the things I would like to see for the admin rule and the code as well. So I recommend that you guys start making a list and giving it to us. So at least if it's fresh in your mind, share it now because you're gonna forget it later. So, yeah, so please jot down any possible changes you'd like to see for chapter 21 and the admin rule. So once we start the modification and change the amendment process, at least we have a basket full of requests.
I have one more
Understood.
comment.
Rick Gaffney, you had comment?
Yeah, I have a question, actually. I'm interested, whose legal decision is it that some of this stuff can't be shared with us? Is that federal or is that county or both?
I don't know if they're still negotiating, but I think it came from our corporation council. They told us we cannot share the draft because it's still draft. So, but I don't know at what time we could start sharing it, and that we need to find out.
Yeah, I think it's worth asking the question, because if EPA wants this to be openly considered, then the county may be standing in the way of federal law. So I think it's worth asking the question, and it just seems like that's what our job is, as our new commissioner has pointed out. So if things are being kept from us, then if there's a legitimate legal reason, fine. But not sharing a draft doesn't seem to be a legitimate legal reason.
Yeah, we'll
Part of
continue pursuing that. And
the point is that we will officially get review of the draft and provide comment. That's part of the charter for this group. The issue that I'm struggling with is timing, because it's really hard to get everybody together and talk about what do we want to press for as a commission. So I'm all for the sooner in that process we can be involved, the more organized we can be about the comments we make, because you're showing us things to work off of instead of just a total open door. But we've got more time to go back and forth, rather than, okay, you've got 45 days and you've got to provide comment on this draft, just like the rest of the public. It's hard. So I hear Ramsey saying he's going to go back and he's going to ask to see just what the boundaries are. And I think, if I'm being fair, that we've made the point that we want you to push on those boundaries so that we can have a chance. I also don't have any problem whatsoever to ask everybody as homework, start writing down, what do you wish you could see in chapter 21? So that, you know, that it's so arduous to do rulemaking. If we can bundle some extra things in there, go back to the pain we had when we were arguing on the hearing, changes that we thought would improve how the rules get executed, and any other ideas you've had over the decades on how we can improve how we manage our wastewater into sewers, pretreatment standard being the umbrella. You know, do it. Our next meeting's not until January. Obviously, all of us have the opportunity to send stuff directly to Ramsey as individuals, but as a commission, we'll need to hack it out at our January meeting, and we could make a formal recommendation to him at that time. But if you've got something that you want to make sure gets included, go ahead and send it to him.
right. And in addition to that, I think part of it, I'll anticipate that the AOC is public document, so it's already on the website. I would imagine my wastewater chief, Dora, is keeping track of the schedule and working with Kelly on making sure the milestones as well being identified. So, and hopefully that also could be shared with you from a milestone scheduling point of view as well. That way you guys know what deadline we are under, rather than just saying, well, by November, 2023, but we need to show you and share with you how we're gonna get there. Because it's gonna take a lot of different milestones to get us there, public meetings and definitely back and forth comments and get everybody involved in the process and how we're gonna do the implementation as well. And I know my wastewater division, Chris and Dora, are working with ACOM on getting that program and the AOC in compliance as well. So we have a consultant that assisting Chris on getting that out. So, but definitely, we want you guys are the advisory commission. So the more eyes we put onto that, the better we are. So
Thank you. Del, did I see you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I do. Talking about lists, I know at the last meeting, it was brought up by Ms. Hartman that there's so many projects. There's a list of projects that they have to prioritize. So I'm just wondering if maybe we can be provided some of the list on the different projects, like what Ramsey was saying, have us compile a list to provide to them. But for me, I would have a hard time compiling anything on the list if I didn't know what I was looking for. So if they're working on projects, and we have information on that, we can make a list off of the things that we know you're working on. But to just come out and make a list, you know, I'm sure it's the same list that we've been working through all this time. So it's nothing new, because I have no knowledge of everything else that's been going through. But from what information I did get, I couldn't generate a list with the stuff that's already there. I mean, if the department would provide us some of what they're working with, then we can have a more informed knowledge of making a list to provide to them based on the list that they provide to us. Does that
Well,
make
one of
sense?
the things that I believe at the last meeting, we did get a written director's report. And that report is intended to kind of laundry list all the activities that DEM has underway. The issue is, as with every regulation, the devil's in the detail. And it isn't just the title of the thing that you're working on, it's the nuts and bolts and the pipes and the connectors, and what the heck a Y connection is. There are lots of details that are buried into those general lists. And I think maybe one of the things we could do offline is just go through, for example, the last director's report, and we can try and help identify for you what they mean and what we have to do with it.
in addition to
Some
that,
other list you want to give us, Ramsey?
no, I just want to clarify something. There's a difference between a project list and what is being requested on chapter 21 admin rule. So the chapter 1 amendment is the current code. So you could review the current code. Can I get an idea of the current law that we have when it comes to wastewater approvals within our department? So what you could do, just review chapter 21. It kind of sets the boundaries of and limitation of how the wastewater division, respond to certain things within the community, such as sewer connection, lateral inspection, tying to having a developer tying to a sewer line, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea is what we try to do here is we need to strengthen that code, because during the last year or two, there was a lot of different ideas were floating with the idea is, okay, how could we, modify the code to maybe make it more, we need to clarify it, make it clear, precise, and consistent. So the idea is I know there's a lot of ambiguity within the code itself. So we need to work on the definitions. We need to clear up some of the sections. We need to add more sections. So that's as far as the code. But the project you're talking about, that's the project is gonna come down the list where Kelly's gonna give you an idea of where we at on projects and updates on the schedule. So two different things. I don't want them to get mixed.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd like to move us along since we've got a couple people who need to leave early to the next agenda item. But just to close this out, I think Peter and I will send out chapter 21, and maybe I'll get around to highlighting some things for you to pay attention to. It's very complicated, and then it gets into the weeds of exactly how something is being implemented or not. And on top of that are some legal issues that basically Hawaii County has been pitifully lagging in doing some of the things that are required by federal law. And that's why they don't want to tell us anything they're working on. So at any rate, I'll give you something, and then I'll give you the homework assignment to go through and identify what are your top things that you think are missing. You don't understand what the heck it means. We need better definitions, and then we can come back in January and try and hit this harder. Okay? Okay, no more hands. Item 2 is the grant, and I frankly, it has been issued. The request for, I don't know what they call it, proposal applications for the grant are now open. And if Ramsey or Mike, since this is a grant for recycling infrastructure, maybe Mike, you're the right one to talk to. What's the status right now as far as what DEM is doing relative to this grant opportunity? Mike Rivera? You? Mike? Can you talk about your grant activities at this point? Do we have a, oh,
That's not
okay,
Mike.
Craig,
Mike's not
you're up.
on.
Do we have someone to write the grant? What are you working on? Do you still need additional input from the EMC? I had thrown out last time kind of my personal wish list. We heard from Christine Kubat on what they would be proposing. What's the activity at DEM?
So I guess Mike's still not on, but my understanding, Brenda had given an update last meeting, and she's been working with Doug Adams at R&D, and he set aside $25,000 for her to pursue a grant writer. So she's working on pursuing some, through RFP process, somebody that could come in and do that for us, for the department, and meet the commission's request.
Have you prioritized what projects you want to write the grant about?
That's why Mike and Brenda are working with, I guess, it'll be good. We heard what you guys have to offer when Jennifer made her presentation. So our goal is definitely if they intend to continue pursuing that zero waste, what Jennifer had presented about 2 meetings ago, because she went through the program and you guys needed $5,000 to get somebody to come in. And so we were able to secure $25,000 to get us a grant writer. So if the commission foresee that become number priority 1, what was presented by Jennifer would pursue that. And I know Brenda had certain other programs as well that she was going to pursue.
Well, I guess back to the commissioners. Like I said, I put my wish list up, which headed number 1. I tried to sort it by how much volume or the things that we could accomplish in a relative amount of time, looking at the possibility of setting up a a recycle center or total resource recovery center in the broadest sense, and see if we could build out KL. But if there are some other ideas that people had, composting certainly is an issue. I guess the question is, does this commission have specific priorities that we'd like to see you working on in that grant? Or we just, well, go do something? Anybody? Melissa?
I would echo what you just said. I mean, I think the thing that comes to my mind is the fact that when I first joined this commission, I remember asking the previous director, well, how many years do we have left, you know, in the current landfill, in the Kona landfill? And he said 100, and now we're down to 20. I think that's what Ramsey said last time we talked about it. So I think one of our goals, and we've beaten it until it's dead, is to keep things out of the landfill. And so unless we want to, you know, be digging landfills all over the island, I guess we could do that. We could end up like in Idiocracy, you know, just live in piles of trash, because that seems to be where we're headed as human beings. But yeah, I think we need to keep things out of the landfill. So I think that needs to be, you know, that's part of the zero waste movement, right? It's what Christine, you know, was just talking about. And the thing that's been honestly most frustrating for me is whenever we talk about compost, we have this issue with Hawaiian, you know, earth recycling, where, you know, the county is tied up with them until 2034, and we don't know what's going on because, you know, it's whatever, it's in potential litigation, you know, we can't really find out much about that. But that seems to be a huge impediment to getting any kind of composting off the ground. So we can have these goals, we can talk about them every month, but I don't know. I guess I just feel frustrated that it just doesn't seem like much really happens. But I think if we were to get this grant, it would give us money to at least start moving things in the right direction. And I think composting should be like number one. And I think keeping things out of the landfill, that's, in my opinion, those are, you know, should be the priorities.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks.
Anyone else want to comment? Anyone, Hilo?
Well, let me jump in. The way that Kuna at this point is growing, the amount of facility that the county is going to be obligated to provide, to say the least, is significant. And I don't see anything happening here that is going to bring us to a happy conclusion. A landfill in Kona isn't going to get it. I mean, for all we know, we won't be sending our solid waste to Kona if the volcano decides otherwise this afternoon at 3. Or we're going to be sending it through Hamakua. And oh yeah, what's the road
In the
conditions out
ground
there?
and the lava will take care of it.
Well, that is a solution. If you
Just bring all our trash to Mauna Loa.
good luck. Bring your asbestos underwear, because it's going to be a toasty job. Yeah, I you know, having been doing this for a number of years, I don't see any conclusion that is going to be satisfactory for my district based on the number of TMKs that exist there and the services the county is obligated to deliver. It's just that simple. And so far,
I do want to clarify. This particular discussion item is on this grant. It's
Yes,
a rolling grant, 5 years, it's focused on recycling.
I got that, and to the point that this grant isn't gonna get us down the road in a significant manner to what we are facing.
Let me just clarify one thing, John. I think we set aside this fiscal year $500,000 to do operational master plan. And I think what you bringing up probably could fit within that operation plan. What does the county of Hawaii need to do, given the fact that we got 20 years remaining on the landfill? Should we just continue landfilling? Should we build 2 landfills? Should we start doing more of, the new technologies, and what would it take? How long would it be permitted for? Environmental challenges. So that probably would fit within what we had intended to do with the $500,000 budgeted this year. So I think the grant was just to capture these EBA recycling opportunities. The one that Jennifer and Kristen was kind of pushing, there's money out there, let's grab it. To get a better strategy on what we need to do with compost, with plastic, with other stuff that pertain to recycling, rather than the big picture of what we're gonna do operationally.
Well, I mean, diversion. How are we going to divert it? We could turn this whole island into a landfill. And I don't think any of us want to go there. We have to come up with some other solutions than what worked in 1920.
And that's part of the operational plan. Yes.
I would also like to point out, I've got later on the agenda, if we can move faster, talking specifically about the landfill and what do we do to divert and deal with that. This topic specifically is there's going to be, I mean, it's not trivial, but it's not huge amount of money available to every county in the country to be able to build some infrastructure. And what are we going to try to grab? Pretty small potato projects. I think what Ramsey's talking about is a master plan, a big, long, think about it over decades. This is opportunity to get some things rolling, to support some public-private opportunities. And where can we take advantage of it? And it's pretty dang short term. We can massage it over a couple of years. It sounds like it's a rolling 5 years. So it's think of it more in terms of a project, or maybe we could pull off 2 to improve our recycling on the island. And the issue is, okay, how do we do that? Distributed composting, I think everybody thinks is a really good idea. I was leaning toward a resource recovery park concept, and you build that out over time, expanding the kinds of materials, facilities, fix-it shops, whatever, that you can build that out and basically treat it as a pilot program with EPA money. Thank you very much. And what frustrates me when I listen is, oh, we'll hire this writer, and this writer's going to come up with what it is we're going to work on. No, this ought to be a writer who writes whatever you tell them to write. And they'll do it in the right way that'll win the grant. So what are you going to tell them to write about? And what do we as a commission recommend? Elise, you've got the answer. Tell us.
I wish I did, but I think I don't think that this is going to fix everything, but I think it is a step in the right direction. Your top priority being the resource and recovery park, I think could also create an education opportunity for the community to see where our waste goes. That's a big step in people changing their habits, is knowing what they do themselves and what they buy and where it goes. I think this is a good idea. And I'm also thinking ahead, well, once the 5-year ends, then what do? We've created this habit of sorting waste and collecting things and And then what? Is it it's a pilot, so then we might need more money if it works well, that we divert things from the landfill, we add 5 years to the landfill because of this project. I don't know. I'm also wondering, John, if this might also create new markets, having sorting materials out. Maybe there's going to be new businesses that can turn, I don't know, textiles into something else here in the community. There's a lot of what ifs and unknowns, but I do think it's a very small step in the direction that we want to head versus doing nothing.
Well,
Yeah, thank you, Elise. By the way, we're gonna miss you. I don't know why you're leaving us.
I know this commission takes a lot of work, and there's so many issues, and I just don't have the energy to contribute in the way that I think should be, a commissioner should do their job here. And I don't want to take up a seat where somebody else can give more than I can.
But I encourage you to publicly continue following up and the direction we've taken. Let me add one more thing. I saw my recycling coordinator, he's also logged in. But I think definitely waste reduction, it's a major topic and high priority for my department. As I mentioned in the last meeting, and I directed my chief to look into, is definitely we understand what the type of waste that come into our landfill. So now, as the minute we understand it, we understand the source of it, and we understand how it got to the island and then to the landfill. Then we can start brainstorming options of how to go about the reduction based on the type of waste. So from cardboard to white goods to electronics to construction demolition to regular organic food to green waste to plastics to glass. So all of these, the type of waste that we deal with, we know it, everybody knows it. So the idea is, as you all know, we supported so many legislation over the last 2 years, like extended producer responsibilities, plastic ban and others. So I think once we, and that's where you guys come into play. You know the type of waste. We need to brainstorm ideas. It could be legislatively done, and we need to submit new legislative bills and what have you to kind of ban certain things that we don't want it to come to the island. So we nib it in the source. Then you reduce it, you eliminate it. Construction demolition, we need to divert it. There's no reason for us, I'll be the first one to admit, there's no reason for us to bury construction material. It doesn't make sense. It takes so much space out of our landfills. So we need to partner with private entities and encourage developers to start diverting recycling at the time of construction before it comes to us. If we need to write ordinances, if we need to write bill, let it be. If we can make it policies and procedures that eventually become law, that everybody need to abide to, we need to join with the legislators so we can start passing these bills so we can have better control. So that's the vision. It's a matter of, hopefully with you guys, I'm my new division chief, I could get there.
Okay, I'm gonna chop you off, Ramsey, because you keep diving into a later agenda item, which is how do we save that landfill that we've got and stretch it out lifetime. So I'd like, if I may, to, again, you got some new ideas, send them along Ramsey's way. Our next meeting isn't until January, and that grant better have been well on the way to being written. I don't remember exactly when it's due, but pick one. pick a priority and go for it and write a good one. I think Christine's made good points that the criteria for adoption is, and stick it in Puna, because that's where they've got the biggest need. But anyway, done. Moving on to new business. Item 1 under Roman numeral 6 is Ashley's presentation being postponed. Number 2 is, and I see that Commissioner Inaba is on the call. And that is something that Kira says we don't have to do right now, but I want to get you thinking about it sooner rather than later so it doesn't sneak through. Councilmember Chung had introduced a bill 245 to amend the requirements for the Director of Environmental Management and broaden out who's qualified to be considered. And I was upset. I think I saw John Olson give testimony as well. Wait a minute. Our Director for Environmental Management needs to know what the heck he's talking about, or she. And it's not just an administrative job. You need the technical expertise. Our department is too small to just manage a bunch of experts. You've got to be an expert yourself. And so I was concerned, and I guess I'm laying it out to the rest of the commission. Do we as a commission want to prepare testimony when it's ripe, either at the RAWIM, the regenerative ag, water, energy, every environmental, whatever that committee of the council is called. It sounds like it's going to be reconsidered. It was moved on, postponed to be discussed at the next meeting in January by the council. Do you care? Do you want us to come up with some proposal to describe it better ourselves, or do you want to just say don't change it, which currently would require experience as an environmental engineer? Comments? Did anybody look at that ordinance?
Says
So
permission.
if I may, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
just so that the commissioners have a little bit more understanding of my position, I had recommended that this matter be deferred only because there's a high likelihood that there could be further amendments to the bill. And my thought was I didn't want to put something before you that might be premature or change come January 4 when the finance or when that council committee will take up the bill. I don't know what form that's going to be in. And so my thought process was if we wait until that time, you'll have a better understanding of what's being proposed and perhaps what's not being proposed, right? That could be a number of other changes. No matter what, this body will have an opportunity to provide comment. It's just whether you want to do it now with the language that's currently set forth in Bill 245, or at a later time if there are any other proposed amendments that council members might introduce at that committee meeting. But I just wanted to provide that background so you have a better understanding of why I was recommending to defer it. But either way, it's up to the commission. Thank you.
Melissa.
I just have a question. What was the reason for this bill? Like why does it need to be amended? Or why were they wanting to amend it?
My understanding is that, sorry, I'm reading a couple chat notices. Dee wants a biology break, but hopefully we can wrap this quickly. The concern was that we don't get enough candidates in, and it was a double, 2 bills, I guess. One was for the head of public works and one was for DEM, and trying to broaden out the qualifications of people who could apply and be considered. That's what I heard when I listened to the council meeting. Councilman Inaba, I don't know if you are still on or want to comment on where it came from, but that was my understanding. And
Okay, thanks.
This is Commissioner McIntosh, without being able to read the bill, I would just say, leave the requirements the way they are, because we have a great director that we pick right now, currently. And to lessen the requirements, I think is going to create problems, especially for our tiny county. We need expertise in dealing with the problems that have been put off for 50 years.
thank you, Lee. Melissa.
I think like Kira said, I think it'd be a good idea to postpone this since there's a good chance that it might be amended and changed. And so what we're looking at now might not be the version that is actually the one that, you know, we need to take a look at. So it seems like tabling this is a good idea.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yep.
Elise, did you have a comment? Is your hand
I
still
did.
up?
I did. I saw that Peter had sent the bill in the materials for today, and I see that the proposal is to get rid of the requirement for an engineering degree for the director and add years of experience, including a bachelor degree in engineering or some other related field. And that I think is fine for me. I think having the engineering degree does narrow down the field, especially when you compare the opportunities of people with engineering degrees to work in private sectors that pay probably 3 times as much as our government can pay somebody. Plus, it allows people here locally to born and raised who don't have the opportunity to get an engineering degree in UH Hilo. They can work their way up through experience and, you know, having a full understanding of where they live and work.
Okay. Any other comments?
John.
John,
This body, the Environmental Management Commission, was created by referendum. The people of this county voted this body into existence over the objection of the administration at the time, to say the least. It was intended to have people who are qualified to do what they do. As I take this, you're simply throwing the door open with minimal qualification in any particular area. Here we have someone who can deal with the 2 issues that are most relevant: wastewater, you know, and solid waste. I don't know what more you can add to that. Those are the 2 issues that this body deals with. Period. And now we're muddying the water. To what end, I don't see. For the moment, I'll let it go.
Melissa.
I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but like Elise pointed out, I'm looking at the ordinance right now, and the only difference I can see in the original and then the amended is that they struck out that the director, so it reads, the director shall have had a minimum of 5 years of administrative or managerial experience. And then what's stricken out is in a related field and an engineering degree or a degree in a related field. And then it looks like they added 2 years of which shall have been in an environmental management, public works, or related field. So I don't know, am I missing something here? It just doesn't seem like that much is changing, but does that sound right? Did you look at it, John?
Yeah, I mean, certainly reducing it to 2 years of experience.
Well, no, 5 years. The original thing is 5 years.
Yeah. I mean,
And
the
then-
reduction
It's 5 years, of which 2 are in environmental management or a related
So
field.
basically, it's 2 years. I've
Right,
got
okay.
kind of a degree in engineering
Wow.
and specifically, more specifically, 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that doesn't seem like it would be sufficient for what's required of a director of Department of Environmental Management. I mean, ideally, and I'm gonna sound like an elitist here, but ideally someone would have graduate experience, you know, like this being a director of environmental management requires a lot of knowledge and a breadth of knowledge in you know, environmental management and engineering and I don't know.
exactly.
But yeah. But again, this could change, right? I mean, Kira, what are the odds that this is going to change? I mean, is it going to change dramatically? What are we looking at as far as what could potentially change in this amendment?
I mean, it is hard to tell, but we do have 3 new council members who will be on board next month. And so it's speculation at best, but I think what's before the commission right now is whether you guys want to make a recommendation on Bill 245 as it's currently written or wait. Because I know a lot of people are passionate, you know, about the substance. And so I think, Georgine, if we can just determine how we're going to move this forward at the moment or postpone it to a later agenda item or a later meeting.
And I guess again, it'll get brought back up probably with council, at least at the committee level in January. And will we have something to present then, or do we get our opportunities later? It sounds like we have a bit of a mix as well as response. So I would be willing, if you want to defer it until our January meeting. And also encourage each of you individually, if you have opinion, to contact your own council members to make any comments. Dee.
I may not be participating in the months ahead as I'm terming out. So I would just like to register my opinion that I don't think that the code should be changed. I think that it is important that the director have engineering background. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Any
And I
motions?
I just wanted to say that I agree with Dee, John, Dee, and all of you for all the reasons you've given, because I do think it's such an important position that we cannot minimize qualifications.
It seems to me that they're actually adding the requirement of 2 years to be in the background. Is that wrong? Am I reading it wrong?
It's not the way I read it. Dee?
Yeah, it's making it more liberal as to who they can appoint in that position as a head of DEM. You know, if you look at it, you could actually end up with an attorney in that position. So the way it is right now, it requires engineering degree. If they change it, it's not, read that, it doesn't require an engineering degree anymore.
It sounds like they're broadening the fields that a person could come from, as opposed to just coming from an engineering background. They could come from, you know, there's a whole long list, and it could be engineering, but it could also be public administration or environmental management or environmental policy. There's the whole, or a related discipline. So that even throws, you know, who knows what that could be.
Therein lies the problem.
I guess I don't hear enough consensus or urgency to pass a motion that we put in a particular comment at this time. I agree with Kira, it's going to change. I didn't feel that there was strong support for it at council, but they were going to defer it and talk about it next year. So we have time, just a particular bug of mine. And as chair, I took the opportunity to stick it on the agenda. So I will defer that discussion until January. And again, encourage, if you have opportunity to talk to your own council member, do so.
So Chair, just for the record, I think we just need a motion to defer this agenda item to the call of the chair.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 I
Any
do have
opposed?
a question for council, if you'll allow.
Yes, John.
In as much as this body was created by referendum, a public vote, does the council and the mayor have the authority to change this?
I'm not understanding your question. I'm sorry, John.
Well, I mean, this body was put on
You
the
talking
ballot.
about this body as in the EMC, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Was put on the
These are
ballot.
qualifications for EMC, are qualifications for the director of the Department of Environmental Management.
Yeah, but I mean, that was written into it. That was part of the referendum that people voted on.
Are you talking about what's listed in the county charter right now as the requirements of the director?
Yeah. It created the EMC and then stated the qualifications, as I recall, for the position.
Right. So there would need to be changes to the county charter. And I don't know what the reasons behind Aaron Chung bringing this forward as a change to the county code. Excuse me, this is a county charter, so this would have to go on a ballot or either of the other options in order to make this change. And then there would need to be changes to the county code for whatever result has come from the bill, because the code has to be consistent with the charter. So it would still have, it would still have to overcome additional obstacles in order for it to be a charter, a proper charter amendment.
Thank you.
Sorry, did we take the vote on that?
I forget. Do it again.
Yes, we did.
Okay, okay.
Okay, we'll defer, come back in January. It'll be on the agenda. On behalf of the commissioners, we'll take a health break for 6 minutes. Come back at 10:25. Okay. Stop. Welcome back. We're a little shy on a couple people, but I want to ask Rick Gaffney if we could defer item 6.3, a discussion of remediation of the old Kona landfill site, to next meeting in the spirit of time.
I would ask that, that's fine. We can defer the discussion, but I would like to add some details that I think the commissioners should be aware of. So hopefully they're considering the additional details before the discussion at the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll make it brief.
Okay. A little additional information on 6.3 then. Go.
For those that are not aware, the City and County of Honolulu is currently running into a situation where the place that they chose for their next solid waste landfill has been rejected by the Department of Water Supply because it would be immediately above the aquifer, which is so important to the City and County of Honolulu. This kind of problem also faces us on this island. We're aware that the Old Kona landfill leachate is not contained at all. And therefore, the problem of polluting the aquifer on this island exists as well. So I think that additional point needs to be made, because the Old Kona landfill continues to be a kick the can down the road kind of thing. It's very difficult, it's very expensive, and it would likely fill our current landfill. But none of those are reasons not to do the right thing, which is to protect our nearshore environment from the leachate that is coming out of the Old Kona landfill. So I just want everybody to be aware that it goes beyond what we already know, which is that the location of the Old Kona landfill would suggest that the leachate from it is actually making its way into the ocean and causing additional degradation of our nearshore waters. And the second issue is the one I just brought up, and that is the potential of damage to the aquifers on this island.
Again, in the spirit of time, unless there's something immediately going on that you're doing, Ramsey, I'm wondering if we can defer this topic.
That's fine with me. We could defer it to the next meeting.
Okay, I mean, it's a
So
serious.
noted what Rick said, so.
Okay, ask permission of the commissioners, is it okay if I defer this topic to January? Any objections to that? Seeing none, I'll defer it, I'll bring it back, and we'll expect DEM to provide some more information.
Georgine, just can I say one other thing? I'm cycling off the commission. However, I'm committed to staying for a couple of months to give my replacement an opportunity to come on board. So I'm hoping that moves forward in time, but I'll definitely be at the January meeting. And then after that, it depends how close it looks to a replacement commissioner being confirmed.
Okay. Yeah, it makes me weep to see you guys leaving. So yeah, let's try it for January. And if there's something timely that you decided to do in the meantime, Ramsey, let us know and we can distribute that out as information to the commission.
Yeah, definitely. Usually in standard procedures for these closed landfill, even a new landfill, I'll just quickly reply to Reg's comment. Usually what they do, they install downstream and upgradient, downgradient monitoring wells that could allow and monitor all the chemical constituents within the leachate fluid itself. And they see if it travels into the upper limit of the groundwater levels. So I need to get with staff. I don't know, even because that was retitled subtitle D, title 27. So they may not have the opportunity to drill the upgradient and downgradient monitoring wells. But eventually, if that's an issue, maybe that could be a recommendation to allow for the upgradient, downgradient monitoring wells to set the benchmark and monitor the leachate as it moves. So that way you'll be ahead of the game and do an action plan prior to any possible contamination. So that could be an action plan I would recommend if we don't have. And that's as per subtitle D, title 27. So we could be in compliance, but my understanding also is that landfill was closed in accordance to the current regs. So, and it was certified as a closed landfill by Department of Health. But definitely, if it's an issue and it doesn't have that, maybe that's something we could work on.
I mean, just
Okay, and I think, doing a little bit more research on where it stands, we can come back and address it next meeting. I'd like to move on to.
Can I make
item-
one more quick point? We were talking earlier about this grant, and I was going to bring this up at the time. We have an opportunity for a US EPA grant. If monitoring wells are infrastructure that they would support, then that should be one of the things we're requesting so that we know whether or not we're damaging the environment with this landfill. And the second part in response, not to argue with Ramsey, but I know he's aware of this, but I doubt that the fact that the closed landfill is on fire contributes to the EPA's willingness to accept that it's an acceptable closure.
Yeah, Rick, we're not arguing, it's just we I think, talking and discussing the issue, and I think hopefully you don't take it as an argument, but you're right, it's a complex situation. I mean, the possibility of doing clean closure, it's actually will add to the complex situation we're in. Even you do clean closure, you're gonna move it to the west side landfill, that's it, you reach capacity. And we may not have enough waste anymore at the landfill. So it's very complex issue that you bring in. So it's not the idea of, I've been there, done clean closures before, and we hold them 2 hours on the roadways, but if you have the space for it and you have the land, we just talked earlier about how difficult it is to site a landfill and to go through the process of should we continue landfill and should we go zero landfill. See, it's a complex issue, and we need to solve it. We need to find a solution for it, and my recommendation is definitely clean closure is not an option at this time, because you're gonna fill up the west side landfill, and now you're out of landfilling for the whole county. So, so
I'll give you that it's a very complex issue, and we'll need time at next meeting to talk about
Let's
it.
do it.
I would need to move it along because we're gonna lose people at 11 o'clock. So speaking of tracking things that have
Sorry,
lagged,
Georgine, I need to interject.
we need a
Since-
motion.
Yeah, since the discussion's already pretty much started, just need a motion to defer this item to the January 18, 2023 meeting.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Rick.
Second.
Second for Melissa, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, no more, Rick. Save it, write it down, and we'll hit Ramsey up with it later. Okay, number 4 is a process that was recommended, I think, by a couple of people of following up on these things that we have recommended in the past, and they just kind of die or go sit on a shelf. There was an older version of a tracking system. It was, in my view, missing some components. I went through and started arbitrarily in January of 2020. And there's a draft, and it's a quick and dirty, I didn't spend a lot of time on it, sorry about that, of official motions or letters of recommendation that we sent to DEM. And that's the format that I came up with. If there are elements of it that need to be added, but I would encourage you to just kind of scan through that thing, because there are several where there's nobody other than the chair, presumably, following up and tracking. Where did this stand? What happened? Did we ever hear back? Do we want to raise it again? So I kind of added as the last column, who's the lead from EMC to keep track of what's going on and to make sure that we're capturing items and cycling them back through the commission to see what happens. If you've had a chance to look at the draft that was in there and have recommendations for how to improve what we're doing. Maybe we can hire Kelly and she can set it up as a project sheet. Any comments at this time? I was kind of embarrassed compared to the previous years. There was something almost every meeting. And I was just focusing on the things where we actually had written a letter off to either council or DM. And all the blank spaces kind of made me feel embarrassed, but I don't feel like we have not been doing anything. I feel like we've been leaning on Ramsey, giving him suggestions just in our discussion. So I would say that there's plenty more things that we could put down there. And I try to circle back and pick them up and get them onto the agenda when I can. But as you can tell, I'm not a real formal, let's make a motion, let's write a letter. Want to make sure that we're using our time right. Any comments? Think about it, look about it, think about whether or not you would want to sign up to do some of the tracking and what kind of recommendation you could bring back to the group. I think we're losing steam here, so I'm going to move on to item Roman numeral 7, reports and correspondence. And I guess in terms of director's informational report, what time is it? My clock keeps disappearing on my computer. Are there any highlights you would like to bring, either Kelly or Ramsey, on all the projects that you're working on?
Yes, definitely. It just the last two, at least the first year, we were busy trying to get the issues, challenges, priorities before our elected officials, county councils, and the public. The last year, we really start doing a lot of implementation on managing the issues before us, and try to set up a system within my department to allow for continuity moving forward for future successors as well. So the idea is we need to make sure that we have good foundation, structural foundation for the department that can be continued. Because one of the major concern that EPA had when we first started with the County of Hawaii is the commitment. Every administration comes in, they change track on them, and they were frustrated. I felt that during my negotiation with them on the AOC for Pahala na Lehu. Even though, a lot of people said we're never going to be able to do it successfully, we did it, and we negotiated a new AOC, but with the commitment that we need to continue laying the ground for deliverables. Because it's very important, credibility is very important. So we need to bring back the county to a level that EPA could start trusting, and we are credible enough to start delivering on projects, deadline, milestones. So we're working with them on the bigger picture as well. That's going to continue. So that you guys may see that coming down sometime soon. But as far as the list of projects and trying to fix what was damaged, it's really, we were in damage control mood. That's why I'm so blessed to have Kelly on board. She put together the vision I have on this master schedule. We created what we call a core group system the core group, I think I shared it with you guys probably 6 months ago, but now Kelly's doing the implementation of it. That was part of the idea, is how we keep track of projects that cannot fall through the cracks moving forward. I heard your discussion about, qualifications for directors and what have you, because it's very important for this department. Just I'll share my experience, because I'm not going to be here forever. I'm just counting my 2 years. So the idea is, I just want to make sure I set the department moving forward in a good direction. And it's very, very important. Otherwise, you're going to have people working in silos, and the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And that's why we're in the mess we were for the last 20, 30 years. It's unfortunate, but it's true. People don't want to hear it, but it's true. That's why we're trying to work with the EPA and Department of Health and other entities to bring it to a level that at least everybody moving forward will have a good foundation to start from. With that, I think we identified major projects within the wastewater and solid waste as well that need to be identified. They need to be allocated to certain staff members. So Kelly will go through now and kind of give you an idea of what she created based on the master scheduling strategy that her and I and staff are trying to implement moving forward. That master schedule identifies every project the department will have. It's going to identify the resources that we're going to assign to it, and hopefully working with finance department to lay out the financial plan moving forward for each project and how it's going to get funded. So now you have a roadmap. It's going to take you from A to Z, but the challenge is we make sure that it become implementable and people get held accountable for it. So maybe after we do it, maybe if you guys decide to adopt that roadmap through county council members, so it become the book that everybody has to follow, because it become part of the code or admin rule. To me, that's probably the way to move forward, as long as we have a clear, precise roadmap that people could start checking the boxes to make sure things not falling through the cracks, making the right decisions. You have the milestone. You don't want to start a project at the end of the project, find out you missed a step, and all these millions of dollars being spent, and find out at the 11:30 that, oops, we didn't go through some of the EA process, or we didn't get a clearance on an executive order from DLNR, and that takes you back to the start of the project. So we sat down, we created a list of every possible milestone that every project is going to have, from conception to completion. That includes the planning steps from A to Z, design step from A to Z, construction step from A to Z, and what's going to happen to it after construction when it comes to operation and maintenance. So all of that, hopefully I could at least contribute the years of experience to help that department move forward with good roadmap. So Kelly, take it on.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning. So I've been working with Ramsey and Chris Sparber, the wastewater division engineer and project manager for most of the engineering projects, to build the master schedule. We started by compiling them per sewer shed basin. So for example, Hilo wastewater treatment plant would include every project for the treatment plant, as well as the collection system feeding the plant and the pump stations feeding the plant. So we did that, and after reviewing that, we decided to pull everything into one schedule. It was just a little complicated for presentation purposes. And so I'm in the process of kind of recombining the master schedule. And so I'm going to share this with you. And so this is just the most simplistic view that we're going to have of the master project schedule. Right now, I'm missing a couple basins, like he's coming in here next. But what it will look like is, so Hilo will include, the wastewater treatment plant, the sewer pump stations, and the collection system. So all projects. And so you can pull that out. And that's all, these are all the milestones that Ramsey was referring to. And then we'll be able to identify the critical path as well. We can run reports when things are slipping or late, or what will be my goal for specifically for this EMC meeting is mark them as milestones in the schedule. And so then that way Ramsey can just kind of go up here, highlight, milestones here, so he can report on what's going and what's happening, what's coming up, or he can just come up here and click completed tasks. So he could just give you a quick, easy rundown of what's been completed. And so I'm working with the project coordinator and the project manager, and so I'm going to send them out a reminder to update their schedules a week before the EMC meeting, any other scheduled meetings, probably like council meetings, those types of things. And so the schedule is all up to date. And so the project manager is managing their individual projects. So this Hilo wastewater treatment plant upgrade project, it lives in a separate schedule that Mark Grant is managing. And then I just pull it in here. And so now when he makes updates on his end, we're seeing them on the master schedule end. And so that's what the master schedule looks like. And then I just wanted to share another option for reporting. And so this is the wastewater pretreatment schedule that we created. And this is going to look scary, but these are all the AOC deadlines that are listed in the AOC. And then what you can do with projects, and I think this will be great for project managers, is to then build them a custom dashboard so they can, report to their supervisors. And then when we have our bi-weekly leadership meetings with Ramsey, the chief and the deputy chief can come prepared with exactly like what's going on with the project real time. And so that's our other goal from the project management side. And that's project schedule. So I would say we're about 90% complete on the project schedule. Like I said, we're just going in, we got to make sure everything's marked as milestone or critical path. And Chris Sparber and I are we have a regularly scheduled meeting Wednesday. And so him and I will just kind of continually iterate on this schedule so it could get to the point where we want it. I'm gonna stop share. Yeah, did anybody have any specific questions on the project schedule?
How's Pahoa doing?
Pahoa. So Pahoa town, you're thinking the wastewater feasibility and cost study. Yep, so that project kicked off. Let's see. That's in a separate schedule. Sorry. It wasn't on the agenda, so I wasn't ready to talk about it. Let me pull that up real quick, please. Give me one moment.
So the idea of these schedules for every project to, like I said, be able to track, be held accountable, transparent to the taxpayers, to the administrative, and to you guys, because we cannot afford continue the same practice that was done for the last 20, 30 years. People keep projects in their mind, and when somebody leaves, everything goes with them. And when you ask a question, they're gonna make up a story. So it took me a long time, believe me. We sweat through getting this done, and Kelly could testify to that. It was crazy trying to just gather all that information to put it in one spot. Now
It looks absolutely fantastic, and potentially dangerous. Is this something that you could make available to the public so that if John has a question and can find internet connection someplace, that he can go in and look at an individual project? Or are you considering this?
we could make it read only. We could make it read only and put it on our website. It's
The
definitely
number of people would want to look at are maybe
I know.
5. Yeah, but
right. But if people doesn't know how to utilize Microsoft Project, it's a task by itself. It's but it'll be good if you got anybody need questions. We could definitely share it. Microsoft Project it's a software tool similar to Excel and other Microsoft tools that allows us to manage our projects from conception to completion, and it allows us to allocate resources, the right resources for it. So we guarantee that projects get completed within the deadline, within time and budget. Definitely, I know Ray probably will be satisfied to hear that the first one we did was Kalakaua, and we lined out all, the steps, because we just had a meeting about a week ago or so, and we were wanted to present where we at in the environmental process, because as you guys all know, you got the North Kona, you got the park, regional park across the street. You got two environmental document going at the same process that they've been in the harbor for almost 5-7 years. And every time you ask somebody, well, I don't know, we're waiting on somebody, but somebody's not telling us what you're waiting on. So now everything is set up with a milestone, with the project lead assigned to that project. And that person, that project lead, is responsible to reporting to a core group, at least that now you not only have one person knows about it, you have a group knows about it. If one person goes out for whatever reason, now you have you have a backup. If I need information, I pick up the phone, I get it from anybody within that core group. So I have more selection to access projects. If the mayor's call me and needs update, I could quickly give him the update of where we at on each project, rather than just guesstimate of or trying to hunt down the person that was running the projects. So things are changing. We get in there, like Kelly said, 90%. This is a great accomplishment for DEM. But to get to that point,
it looks absolutely fabulous. And if you can keep people disciplined to doing the updates, and once you get your bugs worked out, I think maybe we need to figure out what kind of roll-up report does EMC need to have. Lordy, I do not want to read every one of those project lines. What do we need to hear here? Where are you really behind? Where have you run into a wall that we could help break down? Are you headed in general in a direction that we don't think you ought to be headed? That you get sucked into completing a project when it makes no sense to do that project anymore. So that's the, figuring out where that roll-up level is for this commission, I think will be fun. But I very much appreciate the amount of work that you've done. It's incredible. And you said Microsoft, and right there you go, oh Lord, you need a 2-year degree just to be able to know how to work it. So that's good. You've got Kelly, hopefully forever, to be able to make sure that all works. But absolutely fantastic. So answer John's question, Kelly.
Well, I just wanted to thank Kelly because this is what I was asking about, to be able to see what kind of projects and how it's progressing. So thank you. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I mean, the secret to getting anything done is I know that you know that you know that I know.
That's the intent. And it's, you know, because, you know, talking about transparency, this is as transparent as you can be. I know during even the commission meeting, you guys, when I first started, you know, where are we at on the R1 at Kalakahe? Where are we at on, you know, now it's all on the schedule. Push the button.
So John had the question about PAHOA, so I had to pull up the progress report. I've got so many projects in my brain right now, so forgive me, I'm just going to read this to you. So the PAHOA project NTP'd in July 17, 2022, and so we had a kickoff meeting of council members and planning department. We did a site visit. I came along for the site visit with AECOM. And that was to help them prepare the project definition report. That report was submitted to DEM and finalized.
Kelly, could you share that schedule on the screen? So people could see it if possible.
Sure. Sure thing. All right. Oh, one more button. Sorry about that. Have the Gantt chart because that's sometimes helpful to get the full picture.
So that column with the percent complete, it kind of tells you an idea of how much already been done, John, on that particular project.
Yep, so we've got the percent complete here, and then also next to the progress bars on the Gantt chart, you could see what's been 100% complete. So they submitted the project definition report, and we held the workshop, and so they're getting started on the feasibility study. So they've been collecting the background data and reviewing the regulatory requirements, that sort of thing. Let me look at the progress report, see if there's anything else interesting in there. So the 2-month outlook. So they put our integrated our comments and finalized the draft project definition report, and the final project definition report is due November 18th, 2022. And that was submitted. Sorry. Any questions?
Could you shoot me a copy of that?
The schedule?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah, I think.
Yeah, just we could share copies. Just make sure this is very dynamic, John, because project leads keep updating it. The percentage. They're not supposed to change any of the milestones. And what's so unique about this schedule, no major changes would happen without, you know, myself know about the change, because otherwise the schedule become useless if we allow everybody to make change. So changes are very controlled as we move forward. But yeah, we could share, you know, a copy with you, and Kelly just send a PDF file, and we could share it with them. But, you know, these are the tools that as engineers, as professionals, as organization, we should have. to be able to manage the department and be able to manage projects and staff as well. So I'm glad we get in there from 90%. It's a hard work. But I just want to make sure you guys aware of now when you guys have questions on any particular projects, we could identify where we at in the process.
Thank
We
you.
can bore you with all the details. I just wanted to reiterate the disclaimer that, you know, for the most part, the project schedule is going to be, you know, the project schedule could change unless it's something that we are under AOC for. So any sharing of the schedule should have that disclaimer. Because that's just how you manage projects. Stuff happens, things get delayed.
Well, that's why you set up Gantt charts. So you see, uh-oh, you're going to push this deadline out on me. That's going to shift all sorts of stuff. And
domino
start
effect.
banging against deadlines that we're not going to make. So it's brilliant. It works if you get the data in and somebody's bird dogging it. And like I said, I think we'll have the challenge of figuring out how to roll it up and condense it into a form that makes sense for this random group. So I thank you. It's fantastic
Really?
work.
Yeah,
So
I
again,
would
I'm gonna
probably, I was just gonna say, as far as rolling it up, my recommendation would be, we'll start with the milestones and then maybe the next quarter lookout, you know, what's been completed and where we're going in the next 3 months. And then, so I probably create that for you and then take your comments and see what else you like.
Okay. And again,
And also just, Georgine, also pertaining to the hot topics that you guys and your district is being tracking. So you don't have to worry about, you know, small projects that we're working on. You guys need to pretty much pay attention to the big issues. You know.
Well, and like I said, I think we would need to or would want to hear about the big barriers that you can't scale, that maybe we can have a chance to poke a hole in, and to comment to council or whomever. And so how do we bubble those up?
And if you don't mind, since Rick is here, I know his term is gonna expire at the end of the year. Kelly, could you put Kelly here on the screen? Rick, you and I, we need to probably follow up into the last meeting that we had with Robert Masoto. And we're trying to get a hold of Sean at Shifty, try to ignite that EIS completion. So we need definitely your support, guys, from DLNR and the harbor, especially for the North Kona projects. We got that $19 million. My goal is I'm gonna try to implement it and capture that 19 before the 2 years. We've been pushing all the technical aspect of the projects. As far as the EIS, it's really we just need to be able to get that moving. If we get help from you guys, maybe we could concentrate, because as you see from the schedule, you know, for even the R1 users end up using the sound filter to get us going. All of these projects are contingent on getting the EIS moving forward. So I just want to make sure, you know, we've been asking for the meeting for the last 3 weeks with Shifty, but we're going to continue putting the pressure just to make sure that we could capture and secure that $19 million for the North Kona, because we just accepted the dedication for the Hawai'i Business Park on their sewer collection that they placed. So Rick, definitely maybe outside this commission or meetings, but yeah, you and I need to continue working toward that goal, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I plan to, and I would point out that Bob Masuda has made it very clear that his accessibility could change on December 31st.
Yeah.
DLNR is
I'm
one of
asking you
the
now,
few-
maybe we could.
Yeah, we need
to.
we need to do it right away because
Yeah.
and DLNR is one of the few agencies that actually goes till the end of the year. Most of the other state agencies are done like December 5th or something. So anyway, I have a meeting with Jay Nickerson coming up, and I will ask him if he can set up a meeting with Bob Masuda to discuss how we can move Shifty along here so we can get that done.
Yeah, that's my goal, to get it done during this administration, because it's been around for the last, you guys know every project, it's been around for the last 8-10 years and never closed. So, and I cannot afford just continue allowing the same and allowing this to continue without closure, because there's potential of losing that $19 million grant. So.
Well, certainly you pass it along at the next CR Club meeting.
Thank you, John. That would help.
Yeah.
Anything you guys could do to push us through, because I got consultants are working on the layout for the headwork, sand filters, and we're gonna get into the process and treatment of that wastewater. We changing the process. That facility potentially is going to be a class 4 facility, because the engineering and the process and treatment is changing. So it's not going to be class 3 anymore. So as far as that move on, hopefully we could accelerate it. So I know there's a lot of concern about allowing that water to continue going to the sump. But once we create R1, with the sand filter that we got, that's not only going to benefit the county, it's going to save the county more than $80 million, because that was based on the prior design. As you guys know, it was based on most, kind of sat basins and different type of filtration. But hopefully with the sand filter, we're going to be able to cut that treatment costs, hopefully by $80 million. So that's why I want to try to push it and get it done at least, as soon as possible. So anything you guys could help to get us moving to the R1, that would be great.
Yeah, well, I mean, that brings it back to where it was intended to be, what, 25 years ago, 30 years ago? When they first started that project?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the reason you're right, John. That's the reason I'm trying. That's why I mentioned earlier, the first year just took me to identify the damage that was done 25 years ago or 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And hopefully now at least with that, now we're bringing the knowledge, we're bringing, we challenging the ideas, and we gonna hopefully do it cheaper, but achieve the same goal and objectives, and potentially set up the system for better customer service moving forward. You hit it right on. Over the last 25 years, we have zero to probably minimum amount of customers to our system. 25 years ago, they projected that our flow at Kalakaua should meet the maximum design capacity, and we still at 1.8 MGD 25-30 years later, because it goes again. It's just it fell through the cracks.
Excuse me, I don't know what agenda item number we're supposed to be talking about, Chair.
We're on 7.
Item 2. Item two.
basically, the general issue of projects and updates, and
So I think we just need to be clear about, first, Chair, if you can just state the agenda item, that way the discussion is confined to that subsection of the item. I just want to make sure that we're following sunshine.
okay. I think what we've done is to talk at a higher level about project management in general, with a couple of diversions onto individual projects as examples.
Correct.
Georgian, it's item 2 under reports and correspondences. It's item 2 on the agenda. Wastewater division project.
2 wastewater division projects and updates, where the big project is the scheduling and individual items, specifically question on the PAHOA, which wasn't on the agenda per se, but a way to illustrate how the system works.
On the list.
I guess 2.2, I mean, there's, never mind.
It was part of the projects we given you guys updates on. I mean, it's.
Okay, are there any, just to, again, get us back on, and I think we're losing people.
Yeah, I've got to leave, but thank you all very much and have a wonderful day.
And wonderful holidays. And hopefully, even though you are terming out, you are going to stick around at least for a couple of meetings into 2023.
Yeah, I'd like to. And in the meantime, if anybody knows a very good candidate in District 6, please let me know.
Definitely. Again, you're going to be sorely missed, and
Really?
encourage you to continue participation as a member of the public.
Gotta run. Bye.
Bye. Aloha. And ditto to Rick. And thank you for saying you can make our January meeting. I want to make sure we got 3 people in Hilo, and at least if I have 2 of us right now, we still have quorum. I think I've lost Melissa, that she's lost internet connection. And she's blaming it on Mauna Loa. So we'll see if we can move through. And I guess back onto the agenda, as Kira, Sherry, I did tell you, you need to keep trolling me. For the director's informational report, if there are other highlights, or if commissioners have specific questions about progress regarding any of the solid waste or wastewater updates.
Commissioner McIntosh, I had a question. December is tomorrow, and so is the Waiahinu transfer station, are they gonna be able to complete the improvements in December? You know,
I'm sorry, which station? I couldn't, you break in.
the Waiahinu transfer station, will it be
Oh.
completed in December as scheduled?
Yeah, our contract ended December. They had the initial completion ended December. So we on track, but we asked them to do blacktop asphalt. So it's gonna extend it to middle of January till they secure the asphalt. But if you've been there lately, we almost at 90% completion plus. So yeah, we on track. So our goal is to have it, at least the construction completed no longer than mid-January till they secure the asphalt and some of the small component.
Anything else? Again, now that they've got this wonderful set of spreadsheets. If you have individual questions about projects, you can go directly to DEM and ask. Item 7.2 is information requests. That was me. And again, I don't know that we have enough time or enough attendees here to get in too deep. You said it again, Ramsey, that we've got maybe 20 years left in our one and only landfill. And so I think this commission needs to put some serious prioritization and emphasis on how do we extend the lifetime of that landfill by diverting waste, preferably not creating them in the first place, but putting them in the right place when we have them, and reusing materials that are good. Previously, you talked about the construction demolition. I put in a draft. This is me, Georgine Adams, informed by my work with the Solid Waste Advisory Commission. But these are the emphasis priorities that I would put, just looking at the volumes going into the landfill. These numbers are old. You can argue about them. But I think in order of impact in dealing with them, they're probably more or less the same numbers. The construction and demolition represent a good 20% or more or less of what's going into that landfill, and that's stupid. One, we don't need to have such a highfalutin sanitary landfill for wood and cement and old broken toilets. You can put it in a different kind of landfill, but preferably it's material that can be reused by others. So that was my number one. Paper is almost equivalent. Who knows how much that includes fiber. We are recycling corrugated, but not everything. And my husband just went to Waimea transfer station, and there was all sorts of stuff in that bin for corrugated, like styrofoam that don't belong. But that's a big one that we need. If we could reduce that significantly, we'd have an impact on opening up the landfill. Residential food waste feels good, but in my mind, it's not the huge volume issue, but it would help. And there are things that we can do. Green waste should not go into a landfill. Oh, you're showing it. Period. It's one of the few things that I might even be willing to support a ban on, even though I'm not a big fan of bans. But it's a relatively pitiful percentage, even still. And plastic packaging, I'm sorry, everybody hates it, but it's not a high volume issue. It squishes nicely in a landfill, but that too is another opportunity for a diversion of waste. So anyway, these were just my ideas. I think what are you showing, Peter, on the screen? I think we need to look at what are we wanting to do, what's DEM got in, now that you've got a solid waste chief, what are the priorities to really extend the lifetime of that landfill? Because for sure, we're not going to be able to set up another one. So that's the topic. And if you have comments, Ramsey, or your crew.
Yeah, I was gonna just have our recycling coordinator give you updates since I saw him online, if you don't mind, Greg. And also just, I know I heard the.
Sorry to interrupt. We have a request for recess over here. Can you look?
Okay, you want to take, where are we on time? Take 5 minutes.
Okay. For meters.
For meters. Oh, this is sad. Parking meters. They got to feed the meters.
We do?
They haven't listed it because we don't have a need.
So you're gonna stop recording?
I'm gonna show you a few other ones.
Can I ask the question? I was
The
gonna ask the
topic at
question.
hand is dealing with what I assume is your belief that we're running out of space at our landfill. And what are you doing and what does the commission think about ways to extend the lifetime of that landfill? And you'd like Mike Rivera to talk about, or maybe Craig?
Yeah, either one of them. I had a deep discussion with Mike yesterday, so they prepared some of the draft actions to reduce landfill volume by waste type. As I was mentioning earlier, understanding the waste type, we could control it. So either Mike or Craig, but one question, I keep hearing 100 years from prior director. Do you guys have any document, the commission, or was it just a number was flown around? Because that's a big difference between 100 and 20.
Actually,
I
I
just
heard
wanted to make
150 when I
sure.
first came on.
Well, the volcano does keep paving it over.
I think that was, I'd have to go back through, look through the solid waste management plan and past EMC meetings, maybe even press clippings. I'd have to go search for that, but that he was kind of fluffy over whether it was 100. It was more like 50 to 100, I think was the range. But I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, if you could please, because that is a big difference. I just want to make sure either he missed it or we missed it. So I just want to make sure because we're not talking about a few years. We're talking about 5 times the years.
No, and I was concerned because the volumes you report going to the landfill have not shot up significantly to make that kind of a difference. So tell us what you're going to do, Mike or Craig, to divert a lot more waste.
I'll go first, Greg. The thing with the landfill, let me close the door here, is to look at the waste stream itself. So we know we take in approximately 200,000 tons a year to the facility each year. So with that, you have to look at break it down in terms of waste characterization, take a look at what you're bringing in. And then from there, you could look at actually source reduction, look at some, like we know C&D is an issue with that landfill and what goes into the landfill. So you can look at generating some policy or legislative procedures within the county to ensure that the construction crews are actually providing some diversion, whether it's roof shingles, wood, drywall, and then you can get that diversion out of there. That would help immensely as well. Also look at your operations of the landfill, looking at compaction, how we are doing compaction, look at how we are using our cover ratios. It should be about 25%. And then from there, you're continually looking at ways to divert. So with recycling, what can we do from the source side to reduce the amount of recyclables coming into the landfill, whether it's cardboard, metal, and those items, and plastics, and then go from there. And it's a slow process, but it's one that's definitely on the horizon and needs to be done so you can extend the life of the landfill each. So for our landfill, the compaction rate's about 0.6 tons per cubic yard, 0.65. And if you can increase that 0.1, you're increasing the life of that landfill almost 10 to 15 years, depending on the type of waste stream coming into the landfill. So it's really important to know what is coming into the landfill and get a good idea. That's all.
Are you looking into doing new characterization study for waste to the landfill?
I haven't yet in my short time here, but it's always a good idea to have an idea of what's coming into you to the landfill. I know the landfills I've worked at in the past, we've always done waste characterization, so you can make adjustments to whether it's communications, community outreach, your recycling programs, wherever you're seeing an increase. So that's what the waste characterization that I've always done in the past. Another thing I didn't even talk about was organics diversion, more organics diversion from that landfill, which is a good 15,000 additional tons that can be diverted out of that landfill as well. And all this requires planning, as well as making sure we have the markets on our island itself to be able to handle if we're going to do a lot of diversion from the landfill. A lot of things go into it right now. What are the end markets on our island that are capable of handling the increased recycling products, the organics, and then go from there.
Craig, did you have any comment about new initiatives on recycling?
Oh, no, but I wanted to give updates on the programs that we have going on.
Okay.
So the life cycle analysis, the final draft for county review will be December 16th. That's our expected date, and they expect December 28th to do their presentations. The non-mineral sunscreen ordinance, the admin rules, warning letter, and inspection forms have been sent to Corp Council. Household hazardous waste collection events dates are set, and they're on the Hawaii Zero Waste website. So it's February 4th at West Hawaii Civic Center, February 11th at Waikio High School parking lot, March 4th at Waimea District Park parking lot, and March 5th at Pahoa Recycling and Transfer Station. And then as far as the e-waste program, we're waiting for one more response from the lone bidder. And then we can go start routing it for signatures. But we're looking at 2 events in December, one in Hilo, one in Kona, and then also 2 more in January, one in Hilo and one in Kona.
Okay. So that, if we're going to classify it as comments, it was the delayed report on 7/11. You may have noticed I took out from the previous agenda, going back and looking at the data that you had given Mike last time about the cost for recycling. And I'd like to see the LCA and then bring it back up for discussion as a package, whether January or February meeting. So again, back to what does the commission think in terms of priorities for how to reduce or increase diversion, if you will, or reduce the generation of waste in the first place? Are there things that you want to comment on now, or I'll bring it up at the next meeting?
Well, I mean, I'll harp on this again. Everything that we are having to deal with in terms of solid waste, it comes in a shipping container. The people who purchase the materials that are in that shipping container have no idea what it costs to dispose of the waste stream they are creating. We need to connect the dots. I mean, one of the major problems is that we do not have an informed public about the cost. The total number of people who know what it costs are probably sitting in this room right now. at looking at this screen. And the rest of everybody else is clueless. So, let me fill this one.
Well, like I
Um,
said, we'll bring the LCA report, which is a big part of the quantified costs, as well as report on advanced disposal fees and the information that I'd still like to figure out how to break down into more
Doesn't
public.
do any good unless we get it into the hands of the people who are actually creating the waste stream.
No, I understand, but you need to have the information first and
Yes,
then
we
go and provide it to the
We
public.
agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, tackle that again. I said, I just wanted to tee up the topic for further discussion. We're not going to solve it today, obviously. Of what would the EMC recommend the DEM tackle in priority order. And I gave you my draft for something to chew on, and I'll bring it back next time. And let Mike get some more time under his belt for what direction he thinks solid waste should go. So we need to move on. The last item under this section is a 7.3, discussion of the final report of the Cost of Government Commission. And they're done with making their recommendations. It's a time-limited review. They had 2 recommendations for the DEM, and one I think we've mentioned here before, and that is redo that Kakamami contract with Hawaii Earth Resources. And the second was to try to do public-private partnerships with wastewater treatment. We have already, as a commission, submitted recommendations on that, and it's another one on the tracker system that we need to follow up and say, why can't this be done? I listened to the presentation of the Cost of Government Committee to the mayor, and he said an interesting comment that I picked up because it's kind of a bug of mine, is that he's got a group looking at the Kono decision and saying he said it was more than one decision, it was 3 decisions or something that interact, and that there may be options to not have Kono get in the way of these public-private partnerships to help us out. If you know anything about that more, Ramsey or Kira still on the line, again, that's something I thought you need to be aware of and encourage to eliminate barriers. But I think we're already on record as supporting public-private. What we aren't necessarily on record of is the HER contract, and whether we, as a commission, if there's value for us to support that recommendation that came out of Cost of Government. Any comments, Ramsey? Kira?
Yeah, I watched that as well. And they asked me to do multiple presentation to them last year. I mean, early this year. So yes, I mean, they bring in stuff that beyond DM control when it comes to the Kona decision. I know our corporation council is working on probably clarifying it for our department as well as other departments moving forward. As far as the other issue they brought up with HER. It is also one of the issues that the department, and we hear the community member loud and clear. We hear people wanted to go into different composting, and all these are valid concerns, and we hear them, and we will continue working on finding solutions. Melissa brought it earlier, we said, you know, sometimes you're controlled by the contractual agreement you have, which is true, but we'll find ways to definitely navigate through it. And comments well said by all of you and by the cost of government and by the constituents of these counties, so this county, so.
Any of the commissioners have comment?
This is Commissioner McIntosh. I just have one question. Don't all contracts have a clause for ending or breaking it for both parties? I mean, just because you don't know what the future holds. Would there be such a clause in the current contract that y'all are looking at?
Yeah, I mean, this contract was signed for till 2036, and we could terminate under the convenience clause, which, you know, we could under that, but we, like I said, it could lead to potential litigation. Therefore, I probably defer that question till we in-house work with corporation counsel to navigate through it, because potentially it could lead to litigation. Therefore, I may just defer answering the questions at this moment. Just
Anybody else?
pertaining to that, but you know, to that contract.
All right, we'll let it lay.
But I hear you though. I hear you. Believe me, since day one.
Georgine, I'd like to make one brief comment.
Sure, Rick.
We're recycling less now than when I started on this commission. So I remember going to recycling and being able to recycle my newspapers, my tuna fish cans, my aluminum cans, my plastic, my glass. And electronics, we used to be able to recycle in Kona. We can't anymore. The only solution is to load it in a vehicle and drive it to Hilo. So I know that everybody in the room, everybody on the screen is aware of this. I just wanted to state it again, because it's just very important to get back what we used to be able to do to lessen the amount that we're putting in the landfill. And I realize there's a million reasons why. You know, if you don't have a market for this stuff, you can't accept it. But there's clearly a market for the electronics waste. There's clearly a market for paper waste. So I think we need to constantly revisit these opportunities and try to get as many of them back on track as we can.
Thank you, Rick. And I'll keep harping on it. And we'll have some version of it on the next agenda. Anybody else? Okay. Items 8, room numeral 8, that was where we're hoping to get from Corporation Counsel the options available for advanced disposal fee at point of purchase, and we will put that back on the agenda when it's ready. Future agenda items, number 9. I've got lots of things we deferred. I will be putting them likely on the next agenda. And if there are other items, as always, you guys are welcome to recommend them to me, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what Pele decides to do to us. We may have all sorts of new issues to deal with as we can no longer get across the saddle road. But again, future items, just let me know. Announcements, we rescheduled the meeting for January to be the 18th, because when we had it on the original date, which I think was the 25th of January, that's when the council is going to be meeting. So we rejiggled that. So hopefully people can make January 18th. If you cannot, let us know sooner rather than later. We need to be able to maintain quorum. And that meeting should be held in Kona and Zoom as well. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
And a second from Dell. Thank you. Welcome, Dell. Hope you weren't overwhelmed and scared and ready to run away from EMC. We've got lots of meaty issues. Lots of things to get involved in, and hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season in December, and see you in January. Oh, I have to say, as everybody vote, we need to vote. I always forget. Do we, who wants to adjourn? All raise your hand. Aye. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. Again, happy holidays, and see you next year.